Alright, if you watched my video from the miniature show, you saw that I got this basket kit. Well, today's video is all about the adventure of putting this kit together. So stay tuned and see how easy this kit is and what I think about it. Alright, today I thought we'd work on the basket kit that I bought at the miniature show. So I did take the directions out of the package so I could make sure I had everything. Tools we'll need: an X-Acto knife. Now I don't use an X-Acto knife very often, but I do have them. We need small straight scissors. We need glue, which I've got over here. Cutting mat is behind me. A ball stylus with a small tip. I also have my trusty knitting needle in case I'm more comfortable. And stain or craft paint for coloring. So it says we have some important terms we need to know. The weaver is a group of paper strands attached at both ends through which the spokes are woven through. And here's our basket pieces. And then our spokes are the individual strands that are woven through the weaver. Now the first step says, if you plan to stain your basket, pre-stain the base and allow it to thoroughly dry. If excess glue spills onto the base, stain will not adhere in that spot with the same intensity. Glue doesn't seem to affect the stain on the paper of the weaving. So I will go and stain my base. Let's look at the pieces here, I guess. We've got those paper pieces that I need to cut. We've got a toothpick to help us work. Our base, and then for our handle we have two pieces. We have the wire and we have the little wooden piece that will be the center of our handle. So I'm going to keep the handle pieces in the plastic bag. Hopefully I won't lose them somewhere. I am going to stain this off camera, and also off camera I am going to cut these. These are laser cut. And they're almost coming apart. I mean, they are, in some places they're already apart, but you do need to use an X-Acto knife and cut along these lines. So off camera, I am going to do that, and I'm going to stain this, and then I will be back. It's stained and it's drying. I did have some trouble, even though these are all pre-perforated. It was a little difficult to get my straight edge to stay in these really thin lines, so some of my spokes are a little crooked, but I think it'll still be okay. Alright, so we need to set aside two of these to use as our basket rims. So I'm setting aside the two that came out the straightest. Now step 3, use a toothpick to weave over and under through the weaver and leave in place so you can easily slide the spoke into the place next to the toothpick. Remove toothpick and use your ball stylus to gently slide the spoke as close to the end of the weaver as possible. Alright, so let's see how this goes. I'm assuming she means that we are going to do this. I'm going to go like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut the working ones I'm using off when I come back, when I get all of them in. So now I'm going to go with the next one. Oops, that's got a really crooked spot. And now we're going to push this up close. Now, this is an interesting way to do a basket. I would not necessarily have thought of this. So now we're going to go like this. Put this in here. Take out our toothpick. Now I have never done one of these kits before, so this is all new to me too, so bear with me. Alright, so I've got one more that I'm working with. Come on. All right, now what I'm going to do, I wonder how much extra I've got. Get this up a little closer. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to leave just a little bit at the end. Well, got pretty close. Now, continue. Of course, weaving is just, you just alternate your pieces. See, I need to put those way off to the side so I don't accidentally pick up my two that I've got saved. So this process will just get repeated until I'm at the end. So I'm going to turn off the camera because this is probably about as exciting as watching paint dry. And when I get this woven, I will come back. I should have turned over the paper before I continued. But I am supposed to be adding just a drop of glue at the end of each of these. So I'm going to put some tacky glue there, and I've got more toothpicks. I'm going to get a glue toothpick, and I am going to add glue, which is why we really should turn the directions over and read the next step before we go proceed with what we are doing. Okay. So I'll be adding glue to the end of each and then going on. Alright, so my glue is dry now, and I had just about perfect. I don't have a whole lot of those pieces left. I did find I had some really skinny toothpicks. I got these at Dollar Tree, and they're quite a bit thinner than a regular toothpick. I had better luck using the skinnier toothpick to help me feed through especially the last few of these. Now the glue is dry, and it says to trim the end of one side of the weaver. So I assume that means we trim it back to here. Things all glued together. And now we are going to wrap it around the wood base to make sure there's an 1/8 inch overlap and trim the second end. I think this is a 3-hand job. Okay, I'm trying to do this carefully so I don't lose my, so I don't unweave the ends. Alright, so this is probably about where 1/8 of an inch would be. Now, apply tiny dots of glue to the loose ends of the weavers where you trim the ends of the for the baskets. Let's get some more glue in my little lid here. And by the way, this is a lid off of a discarded contact lens case. This has become my favorite glue spot, little holder for my glue, because it's big enough I can put quite a bit in. The glue peels out really nicely out of the base, and it just sits really nice. It's got little notches I can wipe the glue off with if I need to. So just a little tidbit there. All right, now add a thin trail of glue around the edge of the base and glue on the weaving. I'm going to use my toothpick. I prefer to put glue on something like this with a toothpick rather than the bottle. I have a feeling I should have gotten wet wipes out. Oh well. I want to remind you guys, I have never made one of these kits before, so mistakes I make are simply because I didn't read ahead. And after the video, I will maybe figure out a bit easier ways to do this. Now, it does not specify where I should overlap at, so I guess it must not matter. Okay, come on. Around. It looks like I've got more than 1/8 of an inch overlap. I know I need my sides to be fairly straight. And then we're supposed to glue the overlap. There. So that, I think we'd better let this sit and let the glue get dry. I think I better move it a little bit though. There we go. Alright, so I think we'd better let this sit and let the glue dry before we glue on our rims. Now, it does say if we plan to paint the rims a color so they contrast with the basket, we would do that now. I think this time, since I've not done this before, I am going to leave them the same color as the basket. If I do one of these in the future, then I might get fancier and add color to this. I think that might be a bit much today. So let me let this glue dry, and then we'll go on to see what happens next. So the glue has had time to set up, so now I'm going to it's not completely dry, but it's set enough that I can go on and get this rim put on it. I think I need to let the glue dry entirely before I try to put this in the stain. I'm going to run some glue down most of the length of this. Now this is our extra piece that we set, one of our 2 extra pieces we saved, and these go around as a top and bottom rim. So glue side to the thing. And this covers up if we don't have our ends completely cut perfectly. Not only does it strengthen and make it look like a real basket, it kind of covers up any boo-boos on our edges. I'll trim the end. And I know on some real baskets I've seen where these ends come together, they cut a fancy looking end on it, so that's something to think about if you want to do that. Make sure it's up. Now, get glue on the back side of the other one. And be sure and read the blog post. I will try and cover the points on the blog better than I probably can as I'm talking here. And also, any 20/20 hindsight that I come up with after the fact, I will put in the blog. All right, now our seam is there. Come on, stay on. Put this right at the top. Yeah, I have never done a basket this way before. This is a really cool process. I really like how the kit is done, and I think, kind of wishing I would have bought more than one. I think it would be fun to do a couple of these, and I think the second one would turn out a lot better than the first. Like with anything, it's a learning process. There. Now, I definitely want this glue to dry before we dip it in the stain. And the stain, and you could paint it at this point once it's dry. And I didn't start my rim where she said to. Oh well, that's okay. Should have read the directions more carefully. I should have started my rim where my seam was, but I think my seam is so disappeared I can't really find it. So it doesn't really matter. After this glue dries, it'll be time to color the basket. And that can be done a couple of ways. It can be done, and she's got several possibilities here. I am using a Minwax stain for mine, and I'll show that process when I get ready. This is not one of the colors. She recommended either Golden Oak or Provincial. I happen to have Ipswich Pine, which is the color I use in most of my stuff, so that's what I'm using. So after this glue dries, we will dip the basket into the stain using a pair of tweezers, and then we just have to put the handle on. So let's let this glue dry. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. So when the glue dries, I'll be back. All right, I think my glue is dry, so now I am going to stain this, and the method that was recommended on the instructions was just to use tweezers and dip it into the stain. Now my stain it's already mixed. It's almost out of this color, so. And we'll let it dry. And we'll see what we think. I may want to warm it up with a little bit of a yellow wash. I'll see. A Golden Oak would have been a more of a yellowy color, but I think this will be fine. We'll see how it looks when it's dry. Alright, now first off, you might notice my basket has magically changed color overnight because I decided I wasn't happy with the stain just over the paper. So I actually went back and painted it with this, I wanted a light brownish color, and then I dipped it in the stain again. So it got a better color. Now it's time to work on the handles, on the handle of our basket. The basket kit I chose has a wire handle with a wood turning. So the first step was to fold the wire in half and twist it, and I felt that that would be easier to do off camera. I just put it over my knitting needle and I twisted it until I had the whole wire twisted pretty evenly. And this is more than enough. So then we need to cut, I'm going to cut off this loop I made at the end. And I'm going to cut it off here. And then we need to cut this in half, and I missed a spot on my twisting, but hopefully that'll be okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So that's the wire part of our handle, and I think I've got way more handle than I need here. Get it nice and straight. Now, it says, okay, cut this in half, put a dab of glue on the ends of the halves and dip again in super glue and put the glued end of the wire in the hole in the end of the wood turning. Now my wood turning, which is laying right here, mine didn't have a hole in it at all on either end. So I used my little tiny 3/64 of an inch drill bit and I just made a small hole. I hope that will be sufficient. I am going to use this glue. This is my GS Hypo Cement in addition to super glue. I've never mixed the two of these, but it should work well, I think. So I just put a dab of super glue on my work tray, kind of off camera, because I didn't want it where I'm going to stick anything into it. Because this is not exactly a super glue. This is a jewelry glue is what this is. But I really, really, really want this to hold. So we will put this in. Oops. And I think I'm going to need my tacky glue too. We're going to mix 3 glues today. This ought to be exciting. These glues all together should hold this, I would hope. Now I think I'm just going to let that glue dry, and then I'm going to actually let that dry. I'll do the other side exactly the same, and then I'll come back and we'll figure out how to put the handle onto the basket. Alright, I finally got the bead glued to the middle of the handle, or the wood turning glued into the handle. I did have to re-glue it a couple of times. I found finally that the super glue by itself seems to be what worked the best for me. I bent the handle to the way I think I want it, and now I'm just going to put some tacky glue and some super glue out on my tray. I'm going to dip that in, and let's see, I'm going to put the super glue. Now, hopefully I'll get my handle even. Probably should have measured this. Just thought of that. Probably should have measured where I was going to put this. Okay, I've got some super glue in there. I am going to dip the handle down into the tacky. Since I'm gluing to paper, it should glue pretty well. And there we go. Let's let this sit. And we have a basket. Now I really like this project. I will definitely be buying more of these kits. I think I'll choose a different handle. Really, until I got to the handle, I had no problems. As soon as I hit the handle, that was the step that gave me trouble. But overall, I love the kit. Gonna make more of these. I really hope I make it to the Seattle show and that the lady is at the Seattle show, because I want more of these. Otherwise, I'll do like the rest of you and order online. But I hope you enjoyed this little adventure through the basket kit. Join me. Be sure and read the blog post. I blogged through as I was doing this. So the blog post this week I wrote as I was going, so I will be making corrections and all that good stuff. So enjoy. I actually had a request for another kit, one of the other kits about at the show last week for next week's video, so we'll be making another kit next week, and then we'll see where we go from there. Be sure and check us on Facebook, read the blog, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.